Good morning, my friends. It is Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, and this is your Ukraine war news for today. This is the daily brief. So I'm looking at the casualties rate and I'm thinking, wow, 1,500 day over day. That's high, even for the last 4 months. I've seen something slightly higher once or twice in the last 4 months, but that's pretty high. 22 tanks, 52 armored fighting vehicles, 63 artillery systems, 57 vehicles and fuel tanks. Now, 642,000. Let's get that number in our head. The British say that there's about 610,000 casualties killed and wounded, Russian casualties killed and wounded in Ukraine now, and that military personnel payments represent 8% of all Russian federal spending. They have to spend more in order to entice recruits to come die in Ukraine. Okay. Ukrainian Air Force reported another big drone attack overnight. Out of 80 launched Shahed drones, 71 were shot down. They launch a lot of Shaheds, but they're pretty easy to hit apparently, and they've been very hawkish about shooting these down. 6 more were lost in the territory, likely downed as a result of electronic warfare measures. So that's what happened yesterday with the drones. But last night, Russia rained guided bombs on the residential neighborhoods of Kharkiv. Many victims were hit. Here's Volodymyr Zelensky saying last night Russia struck Kharkiv again, this time with aerial bombs targeting ordinary residential building. As a result, 21 people were injured, including an 8-year-old child, 2 17-year-old teenagers. 60 residents were evacuated from the building, all receiving necessary assistance. Throughout the week, the enemy... Now, before I get to that, now, they keep shooting at residential buildings, but there's no outcry anymore in the West. It's like we're just accepted that, okay, well, this is what the Russians do. They attack civilian infrastructure and residential buildings. It's a crying shame that there's not more of an outcry. Throughout the week, the enemy has used over 900 guided aerial bombs, around 400 Shahed drones, nearly 30 missiles of various types. So that's what Russia keeps doing to Ukraine day over day and week over week. Russians raining down 500-kilogram guided bombs all over the residential area of Kharkiv, while the Biden administration forbids Ukraine from doing anything about it. Why is he tying those together? Because if the Ukrainians could actually hit deeper into Russia, they could back these planes far off. Okay, another freight train derailed in the October railway in St. Petersburg. This isn't just a one-off accident here or a one-off accident there. There's really something systemic problem with the railway system, and the head of the railway admitted it about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that they're really not being able to maintain. Now, whether it's budgetary or just don't have the manpower to be able to keep things up to speed, and I think it's more of the latter, it's irrelevant. This keeps happening, and they're very dependent on the railway in Russia. Okay, let's talk about the big bombs of the last few days, the hitting of the ammo depot and the other ammo depot and that sort of thing. Russia has lost a 2 to 3 month supply of ammunition due to a strike on depots in Toropets, Vir region, according to Estonian intelligence. Yesterday, Ukrainian forces destroyed the ammunition depot in Toropets. The destruction of 30,000 tons of explosions, equivalent of 750,000 shells. Okay, now at the current rate of combat rate, Russia fires about 10,000 shells per week, and that's on the low side. They could probably exhaust 100,000 in a given month. So that's a lot. That would be quite a bit of firepower. And this is the spy master who said that. He's the Estonian I don't know even what his job is, but if he's from Estonia, I think many still cannot grasp entirely what's going on in Russia. The systemic destruction of major Russian ammunition sites, as well as oil and gas facilities, will have a severe impact on the Russian war effort and the state itself. Estimates go as high as 40,000 tons of ammunition have been destroyed over the past few days, which accounts for 12% of Russian stockpiles, or the equivalent equivalent of a month of ammunition. I don't know how they're getting this equivalent of a month of ammunition, but the 12% figure I haven't seen. Now, there's 40,000 tons. I've seen estimates say that there were 60,000. I don't think that's right. There was 30,000 in the first strike, and the second strike was smaller. So yeah, 40,000 may be okay. I don't see anything that's, but 60,000 sounds very, very high. All gone just by 3 strikes, and you can be sure that there are not some drone debris penetrating hardened buildings. Yeah, these drone debris strikes have been very devastating for the Russians. That is something developed during this war. So these weapons, and they're working on more rockets and missiles and things along these lines that can be homegrown. And if they do not get what they're hoping to get, permission from the Biden administration next week, those homegrown will be the fallback line of defense. Okay, Russia tests 60,000 tons of super, and again, 60,000 is not really what happened. This is the Bard. It's it's kind of a Darth Putin-like parody site, but Russia tests however many tons of super missiles at once to show its force to the West, right? It's kind of funny, but I mean, yeah, that is kind of what happened. They weren't showing their force. The West was showing their force by destroying it. Kursk Oblast, not a lot has changed. Ukrainian forces continued offensives, operations in the Ukrainian salient in Kursk Oblast on September 21st. Did not make any confirmed advances. Not really a lot around Pokrovsk, but I'll be talking to Greg Terry about what's going on the ground in a later video this afternoon, so we'll kind of suspend that. In the meantime, I want to talk about this. The Kremlin appears to be reorganizing Russia's decentralized regional volunteer recruitment campaigns in an effort indicating that Russia is struggling to meet manpower demands of its war effort in Ukraine. So because they had all these decentralized recruiting offices, some are not meeting quota, so they're going to centralize it and make it all run through Moscow, which they hope to make more efficient. I don't think it's going to make it more efficient, but they hope to do that. Despite previous claims that the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk Oblast caused a spike in Russia's volunteer recruitment, the Kremlin has likely assessed that it can better control and improve Russia's volunteer recruitment rates by centralizing and consolidating control. Yeah, that's telling me that this didn't happen, this spike didn't happen, and that it's underperforming. Okay. Now, here's the amazingly big story, the title, the headline, everything. During a test at the Cosmodrome, in the intercontinental missile Sarmat exploded. I was going to say intercontinental ballistic missile because that's how the phrase has always been in my head when I would read this. According to OSINT project, which released satellite images, a large crater suggested the missile detonated in its silo, destroying the test site. So what was happening here? The Russians, in order to continue to intimidate and saber rattle and that sort of thing, were going to test an intercontinental ballistic missile. Not with a nuclear warhead, but just to show, we have these and we can show you that we can make them, we can use them, which screams fear to my mind. I mean, this tells me that they're really concerned and they have to go to this extreme for a reason. An American reconnaissance aircraft, Boeing RC-135S Cobra Ball, flew from a base in Alaska to observe the Sarmat test, but no launch was recorded, likely due to the explosion occurring during fuel loading rather than the launch itself. Expert M.T. Anderson speculated that the explosion might not have happened at the time of launch, but during preparation. So Jane Kiev mentioned it like this, laugh out loud. Yesterday, Putin tried to frighten the world into submission with a nuclear test, or what the kind of missile rather that would be a nuclear, missile. It didn't have that, but it just blew up in the silo, destroying the test site. And this is prescient. I think this is right. Someone probably stole the thing that prevents it from doing that. Like, we just don't know about the depth of the corruption, and we're seeing it. As it's readily apparent, the RS-28 Sarmat test was a complete failure. The missile detonated in a silo, leaving a massive crater and destroying the test site. So That's what happened there. Okay. The RS-28 Sarmat is often referred to as Satan II by the media. It's a super heavy intercontinental ballistic missile, and that's why I was tripping up with the words earlier. Okay, just because I enjoy this, here is footage from the camera of a Ukrainian UAV at the moment that it was attacked by a Russian FPV drone. It has stability and balance that made it, right itself. But wow, this was something to watch. So it got hit, and it kind of turns around and was trying to figure out its orientation, and then came back too. How about that? All right, and it had some damage to it, but it's all right. Okay. Um, Now, this is interesting because we're talking about the anniversary of the invasion of Poland. Soviet Russia was never punished for their major role to initiate World War II. And that's a good point. Because they were the victor, they never really had to deal with that they had the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And here today, Russia has criminalized discussion of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, yet its echoes persist in Moscow's ongoing war against Ukraine and threats towards its neighbors. So I thought that was interesting. Now, this was in Euromaidan Press, and I have no reason to doubt that they're true, but I had to go look it up for myself, and I saw this interesting article in the Jerusalem Post from July 4th of 2021, comparing Soviet Union to Nazi Germany, now illegal in Russia. How about that? Just to talk about that in public is illegal. Well, why? Well, Putin said it's our duty to defend the truth about victory. Otherwise, what shall we say to our children if a lie, like a disease, spreads all over the world? He also said we must set facts against outrageous lies and attempts to distort history. This work is our duty as a winning country and our responsibility to future generations. How about that? Okay, so I'll leave you with this, my friend. Darth Putin saying, weapons with American microchips can't be used by Ukraine to destroy Russian bombers, but they can be used by Russia to destroy Ukrainian hospitals. Man, this guy is just so like the little witty things that he says. He's so right about pointing out the hypocrisy, the discrepancies. All right, my friends, that's all that I have today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.